وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. Sir, Zam, can you turn the lights on? Thank you. Inshallah, we'll continue with the recitation of the Holy Quran by Brother Amir Mahdi. Please welcome him with a salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. قل تعالوا رب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس من شر الوسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. Inshallah, we'll continue with the lecture by our respected guest scholar, Abbas. Please welcome him with another round of salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. What's that?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ومولانا أبو القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم إلى قيام يوم الدين. Shahr Ramadan is leaving us, departing us. Today is the 25th, tonight will be the 26th. We have to, inshallah, encourage ourselves to continue this path that we have started in the beginning of the month, and to know that the end of Shahr Ramadan is very important as well. And hopefully Allah will, if not, has not forgiven us, inshallah will forgive us during the last nights of Shahr Ramadan. We're talking about Surah Al-Anbiya, and Surah Al-Anbiya talks about numerous prophets. And one of the prophets in Surah Al-Anbiya that there are many verses about is Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. We couldn't cover his entire life story in one lesson or one discussion, but even two is not sufficient. But because we want to go to other prophets' lives, we'll inshallah conclude today and finish the life of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. So far, where were we in the story? And we were in Surah Al-Anbiya, that because of the destruction of the idols, the people came to Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. In Surah Al-Anbiya, verse 68 says, قَالُوا حَرِّقُوهُ وَانْصُرُوا آلِهَتَكُمْ إِن كُنْتُمْ فَاعِلِينَ. They came to him and said, burn him and support your gods if you are to act. So they were very upset because all these people have seen was idol worship, and they thought this is the right religion. So they came to get Prophet Ibrahim, and as we mentioned yesterday, they built a very amazing fire to burn him. So much so they needed a catapult to throw him in this fire. When he gets thrown in the fire, Quran mentions, قُلْنَا يَا نَارُ كُونِي بَرْدًا وَسَلَامًا. Allah commands the fire, O fire, be coolness and safety ala Ibrahim, upon Ibrahim. Brothers and sisters, this world is a world of causation. When you, for example, light fire and it is dry, the wood is dry, fire will ignite. There's no mystery about that. So much so this happens that we trust our own lives with fire. How does the turbine engine work? It is, for example, compression, and there's a fire that is inside the engine, and it causes the turbofans to turn and compresses the air, and the jet moves. So we trust physics, we trust the laws of this world. So this is one side of the reality of this earth that Allah has created. It is the earth of cause and effect. And if you work hard in this world, generally you will see the answers, or you will see results in this world. But there is a condition for causation, and that is the condition of God. If God wants, He can stop fire from burning. If God wants, He can cause fire, which is inherently hot, to be cool and to be peaceful for Prophet Ibrahim. So this is for us one lesson so far in the story of Prophet Ibrahim, that our Lord is the Lord that cooled the fire for Prophet Ibrahim. Allah is the Lord who later on will say, the knife of Prophet Ibrahim should cut the son of Prophet Ibrahim, Ismail. But He causes that. We understand, that He can cause that not to cut. So we have to always understand, as much as causation and physics and chemistry regulate this world, this world's only efficient and dominion is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And nothing, even a leaf cannot drop, for example, that Allah knows of it and Allah has done that. Does this negate free will? No, it does not negate free will. But it means that you should live your life as a muwahhid, knowing that everything that is happening, Allah is allowing it to happen. This is universe. And this universe is in need of God. God has not created the universe to let it go randomly. It is His Lord. And that is why we say, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billahi al-ali al-azim. There is no effective force but Allah. And that is why the tradition from Imam Ali has that when you see tribulations, say this dhikr, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billahi al-ali al-azim. And this will be sufficient for you. This will be sufficient for you because you're testifying that whatever bala is going to happen, it is in Allah's hands. Allah can remove it from me. Don't forget this for the rest of your life. If you're stuck in a situation where you think there's no way out, think of the story of Prophet Ibrahim, where Allah made that fire cool for him. And then it says, Quran says, وَأَرَادُوا بِهِ كَيْدًا فَجَعَلْنَاهُمْ الْأَخْسَرِينَ. And they indeed intended for him harm, but we made them the greatest of losers. So Prophet Ibrahim was commanded, he goes and leaves the city, and then the bala and destructions happens in the city of Kutha. And you see that Prophet Ibrahim and Prophet Lut, you see that Sarah and the wife of Prophet Ibrahim, they leave the city and they are in protection of Allah. Why were the people destroyed? Because the likes of Nimrud cannot attain power and keep control of power without people. And they were giving him power by supporting his ideology, supporting his actions. That every king and ruler needs the support of people in some way or some form. So therefore you see that those acts of tyranny, acts of oppression, acts of against religion, of Tawheed, polytheism, these were supported by the people, therefore the people were also responsible. Then we see that Prophet Ibrahim now is going to start his journey, and he's going to be going to the Holy Land, to go to Jerusalem, inshallah. There he meets, it is the empire of the Egyptians, and he crosses by the kingdom of this king who might be pronounced this way, Arara, and this king would take taxes. Whoever would come into this kingdom would take 1/10 of their possessions. Prophet Ibrahim had ghayra and wanted to make sure that his wife Sarah was not seen. So he covered her in a blanket so she was not seen and hid her in like a box or something like that. This person who was the tax collector comes to look at the valuables and sees this, and he's wondering what's in it to tax it. And Prophet Ibrahim mentions to him, again, whatever I'm saying, it's in the book of, God's emissaries or in the traditions, is narrated that he tells him that I will pay you gold and silver, I'll pay you whatever you think it weighs, and in that amount, I'll give the tax to you. Do not open it, because he had ghayra, he had manhood. He didn't want anyone to see his wife. But he refused and he opens, and there he sees this lady, which is the wife, Sarah, which is the wife of Prophet Ibrahim. Kind of surprised, it says, I have to take you to the king. They take him to the king, explaining that, what's going on? Why did Prophet Ibrahim do this? And he explains to him, but now the king wants to touch the face of the wife of Prophet Ibrahim. You see, the tradition. Prophet Ibrahim, from the du'as of Allah, from the control and how Allah is controlling the world, freezes the hand of this king. He freezes until Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, again, to make dua, Allah allows his hand not to be frozen again. This king now sees that these are the powers. This is not a normal person. This is a person whose dua is mustajab. Therefore, he asks for forgiveness. And from the point of the story was that from his forgiveness, he gives Hajar, which is to be a slave of the wife of Prophet Ibrahim to help her out. So now we have another individual in the story, Hajar. So eventually Prophet Ibrahim continues and arrives in Jerusalem, Hebron or Khalil today, in the area of Palestine. And Lot is sent to go to guide the people of Sodom, which were committing a sin, terrible sin. So he is commended to them to go and to guide them. Later on, Prophet Ibrahim has to help out Lot, and he has instructions to fight in the way of Allah to save Prophet Lut. And therefore, they say this is one of the first jihads that were in the lives of the Prophet, and one of the 4 prophets, according to the book, that did jihad. One of the 4 prophets that did jihad, one of them was Prophet Ibrahim. So we continue the story. We see that while Prophet Ibrahim is in this city, in this land of Palestine, there is a few interesting occurrences. One is that he runs out of flour, and you need flour for bread. The sisters probably know this better than brothers, but brothers, I'm teaching them. To make bread, you need first flour, then you need some water and other things. Maybe the rest, I do not know. And you need a hot oven and some salt, for example. But anyways, you need flour. So from this flour, it runs out, this flour. And Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam says, I'm going to go get some flour from my friend who's in Egypt, because Egypt didn't have that drought that Palestine area had. So he goes, and his friend was not there. The tradition has, the story has, his friend is not there. And Prophet Ibrahim, in order to, sometimes the husband has to do this for wife, and another for her not to be let down, fills these bags with sand instead of flour. Not to deceive or something like that, in a way that he'll bring these back to his family, and the family will say, okay, we have flour, until he can go back or do something else. So give him some time. He wanted to buy something himself, some time. He didn't want the wife, in a way, to be, scared or to be threatened away. And this is one lesson for us as husbands, to make sure, always keep your family in peace and calm. Do not always go to the home and say, oh, I have these bills now, I have this, they're going to revoke this now there's this court case, now this. You don't need to always cause anxiety and stress in the house. Look from Prophet Ibrahim. He didn't have flour, he filled it with sand. You too, if you come home, you don't have the paycheck or something, bring some sand or bring something and say, look how much, mashallah, I have today. Let's go spend it. So Prophet Ibrahim comes and he sleeps. It's a journey. He sleeps. He wakes up in the morning. And what happens? He smells bread. And again, brothers, where does bread come from? Flour. Taught you a good lesson. And flour, he's wondering what happened. She said, this is basically the best flour I ever had. And he looks and there's flour inside. And it says that there he speaks to God, and there he knows that what has God done. And he said that, she said that it was of the flour that you brought from your Egyptian friend, from your friend. Ibrahim now understood that what God had done, and he said, yes, he is my friend, but he's not Egyptian. My friend gave me flour, but he's not Egyptian. Who is his friend? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah gave him the flour. So you see, this is what happens, that Ibrahim becomes known as the friend of Allah, Khalilullah, because he loved Allah so much. There's a tradition, and it says because of this is the behavior of Prophet Ibrahim, he became God's friend. You have to deserve to become God's friend. Some is this, that he spent numerous years in the service of God. Tradition has, generally. He sought the poor and the hungry to feed them. And Allah loves this. When you feed the poor, you take care. You're not selfish. You go and look for the poor, the destitute. You help them. Even we have tradition that kullu ma'ruf and sadaqah. Every good and act of kindness is sadaqah. Don't only think that, for example, giving money, giving food, any type of help, you help someone else. You pick them up, for example, to bring them to the center. That's sadaqah. That's good. It repels evil. He had passed long hours at night worshiping Allah. And that he was worshiping God when others slumbered. He became the friend of Allah, that worship that he had. And his perpetual invocation of the Prophet and his family, saying salawat, this maqam of remembering, invoking blessings on Rasulullah and the family, caused Prophet Ibrahim to be Khalil. Imagine you, every day you recite salawat, you remember the Prophet, you remember Ahlul Bayt. Look what position Allah will give you because of this. A lot of the blessings, and if you look through the lives of the Anbiya, a lot of the karamat happened because of this blessing, from this tawassul and seeking these holy names. And we see from the beginning, Prophet Adam alayhi salam, when he was, we don't say he sinned, but when he did tarka Allah, he committed that act of not obeying what Allah wanted or not following the guidance, maybe this is more accurate, not following the guidance of Allah, then he mentions, Ya Hamid bihaqqa Muhammad, Ya Ali bihaqqa Ali, Ya Fatir bihaqqa Fatima, Ya Qadim al-Ihsan bihaqqa Hasan wal Hussein alayhi was-salam, Hussein al-salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. This is one of the versions of it that he asks Allah, he mentions the names of God, and mentions the Panjtan, these five, and that Allah gives him forgiveness. Allah removes the tarka Allah. And the same way Prophet Ibrahim also beseeched this family, the Prophet, before being thrown in the fire. Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, when in the well, asked again, the tradition has that he asked for help from these five. He asked from the Prophet and his family. Therefore, brothers, when we see, sisters, when we see such strength, and I was asked this question, one of the nights, why do we do tawassul? We say this tawassul is the seerah of the Anbiya. The prophets did tawassul. Why would you deprive yourself from tawassul? I said you don't have to do tawassul, but I want to rephrase it. Tawassul and beseeching the Prophet and his family is not wajib. It is a strength. As we said, it strengthens the connection. But what is not allowed is to say, I do not want to do tawassul. I'm against tawassul. That is not allowed, to be someone like that. So tawassul, that's not correct. Tawassul, because you're leaving the instructions of Islam. But now, one day you want to speak to God directly. One day you want to say, Bihaqqa Muhammad wa Ali, for example. One day you want to say, Ya Muhammad, Ya Ali, unsurani fa'innakum nasirai. There's no problem. All of these are in our du'as, these ways to make du'as. So you can invoke them directly, but knowing that this is not worship, you're worshiping Allah, you're just calling these names, just how, for example, the brothers of Prophet Yusuf said, Ya Abana, astaghfir lana. They said, oh Father, do istighfar for us. Prophet Yaqub didn't say, sure, only call Allah, go. He said, Sofa astaghfir lakum. Soon I will seek forgiveness for you. And the tradition says he waited until Thursday night, that special night, to seek forgiveness for them. So therefore, if you want Allah to be Tawwab and Rahima, go to the Prophet, go to his family, he will be for you Tawwab and Rahima. He will accept your, inshallah, forgiveness and istighfar, tawbah. We see in the Quran that Quran says Suhuf Musa wa Ibrahim, Suhuf Ibrahim wa Musa. See, the Prophet Ibrahim has also Suhuf, has scriptures. Some say there are 20 scriptures the Prophet Ibrahim had. I'm going to read to you some of the scriptures from our narrations, because our Imams preserved the scriptures of the Prophets. Our Imams are Warathul Anbiya. Our Imams physically inherited some of the articles, like the staff of Prophet Musa alayhi salam we have in tradition, or other physical articles. They accept this from the Prophets, and also they accept the knowledge and they inherit the knowledge of the Anbiya. So we have in tradition, what was in these Suhaf Ibrahim? What was in these scriptures? I'll read for you some of it. One is khitab into the king, into the rulers. That, O king, in the tradition, who was affected and deceived, I do not make you a king so that you should amass the material. Rather, I made you a king so that you should answer the call of the oppressed. This is in Surah Ibrahim. That, O king of those who have power, God did not give you power so that you can get more of the dunya. God has given you power so that you can help the oppressed. How beautiful it is, the Surah Ibrahim. And only if the rulers would do this and help the oppressed, help those who are destitute, instead of, for example, throwing away food and dumping them in the ocean to make prices go up, give this food and these necessities to the poor people, to the destitute. Or we see here, to answer the call of the oppressed on my behalf. For I do not refuse to call the call of the oppressed, even if it comes from one who does not believe in me. This is in Surah Ibrahim. Even if an oppressed person is kafir, and if an oppressed person doesn't believe in God or doesn't have the right religion, Allah will answer his call. Therefore, be careful of the oppressed. Be careful, God forbid, of oppressing one who has nobody but Allah. Be careful of him. It's not a normal type of oppression. Be careful, because this type of oppression will be meant, as you see the story of Prophet Ibrahim, like this people of Kutha, they were destroyed, annihilated. The other one is to the intellect in the Surah Ibrahim. One with intellect, as long as his intellect is not compromised, should schedule the following times in his daily routine. And we have a tradition like this from our Imams as well, similar to this. Oh, you who have aql, you're smart, so therefore divide your time. Be wise when it comes to your time. Have a daily routine, a time that you speak intimately with Allah. You need a time for worship, a time that many times, if you can do this secretly, converse with Allah, speak to Him. Nobody else is around, and you speak to Him, listen to Him. It's very beautiful and very effective. And a time to account for yourself, to do muhasabah. If you see these instructions from thousands, 2000 BC, to do muhasabah of yourself, to account for yourself before you're accounted for. That what happens if I think that everything of my behavior is perfect, but then the day of judgment I say, oh, it's so wrong. I have heard so many people, where's the ikhlas, where's the sincerity? Always ask yourself, why am I doing this? Even when I'm coming to the center, why am I doing this? Am I coming here only for iftar, for example? Nobody is like that. This is the other center. But if I come here only for iftar, well, I should do Islah. I should know. Iftar is, Allah will provide for everyone. What else should I go for? Am I going here to worship Allah? Am I going here to seek knowledge, for example? Am I coming here to see my brothers and sisters in Islam? Whatever you do, brothers and sisters, ask why. Why am I doing this? Then you reach and see, oh, is there sincerity, ikhlas in it or not? There are some centers, for example, you go, not this center, but there are some centers, that one days of the week will be very crowded. And I was always wondering, why is it, this day of the week is very crowded? They say that actually this is the day that everyone knows there's a barbecue. This is when they have the barbecue and it comes and the parking lot gets full, for example. And I was like, wow. And I told them, you know what? Let's trick them next time so they can come and listen to more of the speech, more can present this time. Tomorrow there's also a barbecue. Tell them so they can come, inshallah, and don't give them the barbecue. See what happens. We'll see. But we should have ikhlas, inshallah. Do not come to the center, even though it's good to eat good food, alhamdulillah. Don't make this your intention. You're humans, you should have a better intention. Don't just come for barbecues, inshallah. Or to go, for example, for Yemeni coffee, for example. And then we have to take a time, privately, and intimately with Allah, to take account, to contemplate what God has done for you. For example, this is Sofa Ibrahim, to contemplate how many favors Allah has done, how much protection He has given you. And the bad thing is we forget. Some say, put a note or put a mark in your house somewhere that Allah has performed these miracles for you, these karamat. Put a sign for yourself. Allah, when I had this child, for example, you did this for them. Allah, when I wanted to get married, you did this for me, for example. When I was stuck, I didn't have money, you did this. Remember these. And this is one of the ways you can love Allah more. Think of what He did for you, but you cannot count how Quran mentions. And therefore, we see that you also, an important to one who puts these, last time is a time to relax, a time to do something. And some of the other tradition is that is lawful, that you like. Some of the other traditions that talks about this. A hobby, you like to do something. You like to go, for example, in the mountains. You like to do, for example, something that you like. And this, in the tradition mentions, this will give you energy for the worship. This will give you energy of muhasabah, or this will give you energy, for example, for the reflection that you and your family, go do things that you like that are halal. And think of it as worship. And if you really make that intention, does it become worship? Yes, it does. Because I'm saying, Allah, I am resting. I am doing this hobby. I'm taking this vacation because it's going to give me more energy to serve you. Because if you work day and night in masjid and center at home, you'll burn out. You need a time period to do something that you like. And hopefully you have hobbies like this, and it'd be even better if you incorporate your family, your children, and they like those hobbies and sports as well, and you can have a good dunya and akhirah, inshallah. Some of the code of Prophet Ibrahim has that, for example, trimming the mustaches, doing ghusl, the shower, the bath. So don't think like a lot, this ghusl that we had is only from our Prophet. It has from the tradition, from the time of Prophet Ibrahim, to do ghusl, for example. Therefore, we see that it has, to be clean, for example, to bathe, to clean, and also circumcision. These are from the instructions of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. Now, Prophet Ibrahim, his other test. Look, so far, how many tests does he have? He is being tested from a child who was in the cave. He didn't have a family and was not, in a way to come out in community in that way. When he came out, his ideology was completely different. So he didn't have that support as a child. Then he was thrown in the fire. Now he has to leave his people. He's from Iraq, that area. He has to go to New. He has to migrate. And now as a father, every father wants a child. And Allah delays. They keep making dua. Him and Sarah making dua. And they want to give up, but they don't. They don't give up at all. They continue even though they're at an old age. It doesn't make sense someone to be like 90 years old, however old they were, or 120, 90, to have a child, but yet they still have hope in Allah, and Allah answers their prayer and gives them Prophet Ismail, a beloved son. Now imagine, this part of the story, remember when I mentioned it, that this Prophet Ismail that's going to be slaughtered, is not one that he's like in 19, 20 years old that God gives him. He gives him after many, many years of dua. And he's at an old age, and maybe Allah will not give him any more. And now to kill him, to sacrifice him, this much different. That someone has like 40 kids, and there's one thing, they're running around everywhere. It's like, give me one of them, for example. It's like, sure, for example. They're running too much, for example. This is Prophet Ismail, one boy that Allah has given him after an old age. So Ismail is bored, but what does this cause? And his idea was to have this with Hajar. And even with Hajar, it took a while, for example, but now Sarah is aggravated a little bit, like I didn't have a child. What am I going to do now? Hajar, he first frees her, so she's not a slave, and then, after that, he has the kid. Hajar then, after this kid is born, doesn't want, and the story has that, doesn't want them to be around anymore, cannot bear it. There is jealousy. And so Prophet Ibrahim is commanded with the Buraq. I'm wondering, how does it go from Palestine to Mecca with Buraq, with this, this ride that Allah has created or made, and they go to Mecca. The first place is commanded where the first house was, for the first place that Prophet Adam was, the first pavilion was there. So Prophet Ibrahim gives them some provisions, but has to leave, is commanded to leave. And knowing that Allah will protect. This is a lesson for Hajar and Prophet Ismail and Prophet Ibrahim, that just completely, there's nothing, it's a barren desert land. People wouldn't pass by there. But to trust in Allah, Allah will provide. And how does Allah provide for Ismail? Ismail becomes thirsty. And you know the story, those who have been to Hajj. He is thirsty. Hajar goes to the mountain of Safa. Usually water is in mountains, this cliff, this hill. She goes there until she cannot see Ismail anymore. Comes back, and all the ways the baby will be in Marwa, this hill. Goes this 7 times, and then by the time she comes back, then she sees the spring of Zamzam water, what is later called, underneath or right next to Prophet Ismail. And Allah protects him and her. Then another tribe comes, and they're passing and say, is it okay for us to stay here? Because water was very needed. It's Arabia. And she allows, as long as Prophet Ibrahim gives me permission. And later on, Prophet Ibrahim comes and gives them permission. And slowly people come and flock to this place. There's now greenery, there's now water. And she trades and gives water and barters it for the supplies that she needs. So she has a good life. The tribe gives her protection. The water gives her hydration. And she trades it to get sustenance. So you see from the story of Prophet Ismail as a baby, alayhi salam, and Hajar, you see that from nothing, Allah here again provides for them. Because if you're with Allah, Allah will provide for you, inshallah. We're going to go a little bit faster so we can finish the story, inshallah. Now, Prophet Ibrahim, after a while, his son Ismail is in Mecca or Becca. And when he gets a little bit older, he has a dream. And the dreams of the prophets are real. Our dreams, you cannot interpret this way. If I have a dream to do something haram, I cannot act upon that dream. I'm going to say, I'm a prophet, I'm going to act upon it. You cannot do it. But Prophet Ibrahim is a prophet, and his dreams are sadiq, are truth. So he has a dream that he must slaughter his son. And he comes to his son, Ibrahim, and the hadith mentions that, I had a dream that I have to kill you, I have to sacrifice you. Ismail replies, oh father, do as you are commanded. This is in the Quran. Do, basically, paraphrasing, do as you're commanded. You shall find me, God willing, patient. How much patience the Prophet Ismail has. Father comes to, say to kill him. He doesn't say, no, this is wrong. You give me some time. Let's do something else instead. He says, do as you're commanded. Submit completely. Very difficult. And when you read these stories, they really are a source of inspiration to learn how these individuals had tawakkul, how they really submitted 100% to Allah. I only ask you to bind my limbs. Just tie me. I just ask you in the tradition as to tie my limbs so that I do not move. And that you bring my clothes back so the blood doesn't spray on my clothes, so my mother will not be upset. Prophet Ismail, thinking that my mother will not be upset seeing my blood, for example. And to sharpen your blade and move it swiftly, because this is a difficult deed. Ibrahim gazed at his son with tears, and he thanked him in a way so much for supporting him. He was happy that his son is supporting him. Now, here, when Allah wants you to do something important, this is another lesson for us. Shaitan is going to make it difficult. Remember, the more important actions are, the more there's going to be barriers and obstacles. Satan or Shaitan does not want this to happen, because because he promised to fool insan, to deceive them. So he comes as an old man form to Prophet Ibrahim, the tradition has. Remember, the traditions tell us, know your enemy, or do not follow khutawat al-shaytan, or that shaitan is aduwan mubin. Don't follow the steps of shaitan. Shaitan is your enemy. Learn, brothers and sisters, the strategy of shaitan. Remember, every year passes, he becomes wiser, becomes more dangerous. Know his tricks. So he comes to Prophet Ibrahim, the tradition is an old man, and he presents a few arguments. Look how technical these arguments are. He asks him, what do you want to do with this boy? Ibrahim replied, I must slaughter him. Then the old man says, with the shaitan, says, you will slaughter a boy who has never sinned? Does this make sense? We're going to slaughter him, he doesn't have done any sins? And Ibrahim said with resolve, yes, God has commanded me. Then he objected and said, rather, God has forbidden you to do it. It was Satan who commanded you to do this. He gives him some shak, some doubt. That dream, for example, you had, that wasn't from God, that was Satan. That was Satan himself saying it's Satan tricking you. And Prophet Ibrahim isn't fooled. So you see, one of the first thing is, as the truth, shaitan comes to you to completely, use an argument to say, no, this is not from Allah, it's from shaitan. Then his other argument, he continues and he mentions that, it's Allah who's raised me to this current station. But then he tells them this. Listen, basically, you are a leader. You're the leader of this community. People will follow you. If you kill this boy, everyone else is going to sacrifice the other boys. Shouldn't do this. It makes sense, right? It's going to start bid'ah, innovation, a'udhu billah. And everyone, whoever child bothers them a lot, or for example, they're going to continue this path. So therefore, Prophet Ibrahim doesn't listen to this, and therefore, he does what Allah commands him. Now, do you think shaitan just stops? MashaAllah, he works overtime. He comes to the wife, comes to the Hajar, the mother of Prophet Ismail, comes to her and gives her, says, did you see where your husband went? This old man and young boy? Yes, that's my husband, that's my son. Do you see where they're going? And then he says to him, I'm disgusted. I saw him with a blade on the throat of the boy. I saw him do this. Imagine telling the mother's going to come there, for example, and stop it, or come with maybe something like some sandals or pot or pan or something, stop what's going on. But then she protested, said, you are a liar to shaitan. She doesn't know basically who he is, but said, you're a liar. Ibrahim is the most compassionate. He wouldn't do this. He says, no, I swear I saw him. He's going to kill the son. And then she says that, and he says that, why is he going to do this? He says that God commanded him. Then she says, if God has commanded him, then he must do what Allah wants. He must do what Allah wills from him. And you see, Hajar, the mother, also submit to Allah. Therefore, you see, from this story, we learn complete submission to Allah's orders. Again, if that command, a dream comes that is haram for us, we cannot do that. If we have even narrations that are against Kitab Allah, a hadith comes to us that does opposition, does opposition against the book, even those traditions we put aside. This is what we have in our traditions and what our fuqaha have. But when we have a clear instruction from Allah, and when our ulama have said that this is legitimate, this is sahih, for example, this is correct, then we have to submit. Even if sometimes we don't understand it, Allah puts a substitution, a ram, that ram is killed, and this, sent. So therefore, Ibrahim alayhi salam, after this, you see in Quran, he reaches the highest of ranks. The Quran mentions Surah Baqarah, وَإِذْ ابْتَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَرَبُّهُ بِكَلَمَاتٍ, when Allah gave him kalamat. Kalamat doesn't mean words. Kalamat means tests, tribulations. He has tried him. فَأَتَمَّهُنَّ, and Allah, and Ibrahim finishes these tests. قَالَ إِنِّي جَاعِلُكَ لِلنَّاسِ إِمَامًا. Now, Ibrahim, you were a prophet before, but now you're an imam. And some say, where's imamat in the Quran? Whereas actually, you learn imamat is introduced by itself in the story of Prophet Ibrahim, and imamat is in the Quran. Want to prove imamat, say Prophet Ibrahim was an imam. This is a qala wa min dhurriyyati. And what about my progeny? Can they also be imams? قَالَ لَا يَنَالُ الْعَهْدِ الظَّالِمِينَ. The oppressors and sinners cannot be imams. So not only is imamah mentioned in the Holy Quran, the characteristics and qualities of the imams are mentioned as well. One of the characteristics of an imam is that they are not of the zalimeen, they're not of the sinners, they're not of the oppressors. And other qualities that later on they can discuss imamah in the Holy Quran, inshallah. So we're going to be finishing. We have about a few more minutes. There's, an interesting story that I was going to give about, if later on you want, about Maria, this person who wanted to see Prophet Ibrahim. Regardless, finally Prophet Ibrahim goes back, and while he is in Mecca, he builds the holy Kaaba, reconstructs it, because it's from the time of Prophet Ibrahim, Adam. They say that it was 9 cubits, and a little calculation will say that each cubit is equal to about 8 inches. So about 13.5 feet, something like that. About 1 story, a little bit taller than a story tall. This is how he builds. He puts the black stone in place. And you see today, Maqam Ibrahim, the footsteps of Prophet Ibrahim. And the tradition has it says, Halummu ilal Hajj. Tell people to come to Hajj. And the interesting thing about this tradition here, Halummu ilal Hajj, it says that the Prophet Ibrahim commands the people, or all of insan. When he says Halumma ila al-Hajj, it is all of insan. Not only those who were there, everyone around the world, even those who are in the loins of their, for example, fathers, even those who are not born, they are instructed to come to Hajj. So that call to Hajj incorporates us as well. It says Halumma ila al-Hajj. It's for me and you as well. Everyone, brother and sister, everyone come to Hajj of Ibrahim. And finally, Prophet Ibrahim. Sad part is, no one lives forever. At around 175, 180 years of life, angel of death comes to him. And the story has, he is so handsome. And he talks about him. He says, I have never seen anyone as handsome as you, for example, mashallah, to Israel, the angel of death. And then he speaks to Allah and he jokes to Allah. This is the easy death of Prophet Ibrahim. He makes a little gesture to Allah. Have you ever seen a friend take the life of his friend, for example? Have you ever seen Khalil Allah, for example? You're killing your friend, you're taking his soul away, and then Allah answers. Have you ever seen a lover who dislikes meeting his beloved? Have you ever seen someone who is in love with their Allah, with his lover who is Allah, and does not want to wish to meet Allah, because when we die, the barriers are removed, and we see Allah as He is, kama huwa, as He really is. In our days, and that day will be sharp, will be hadid, will be sharp, and we'll see Allah. Unfortunate are those who Allah does not speak to them. On that day, when we can finally meet Him, we'll see Him with our heart. All the barriers are removed, and we can see Him, but Allah does not speak to them. So therefore, we learn from the story of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, tawakkul, submission. Brothers and sisters, 3 attributes of Allah have to be instilled in our hearts to have tawakkul. 3 attributes. One is that huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir. If you want to rely on Allah, believe that He has power over everything. He is the all-powerful. He is the one that makes fire not burn anymore. 2, that He is Arhamur Rahimin. And from Surah Al-Hamd, you know that God's dominion and kingdom is based on Rahmah, on mercy. He has made Rahmah and mercy incumbent upon Himself. So the second attribute of Allah that we need to work on ourselves is His mercy. Do not forget of His mercy so much that on the day of judgment, they say even Shaitan gets tempted. He says, so many people you've forgiven, this person, that guy, you're terrible people, you've forgiven them. What about maybe I should ask for forgiveness, but Shaitan doesn't. He even gets tempted. So His mercy. And the third is His wisdom. Allah is wise, His knowledge, His wisdom. He is Hakim, Al-Hakim. He designed and created this marvelous world that when you look down and you see atoms and neutrons and electrons, and you keep going and you see there's a marvelous universe inside each little hair, for example, DNA, the atoms. And when you expand this and you see the universes, the billions and trillions of galaxies working harmlessly, perfectly in orbit, you see that he is wise and he designed the best creation. Therefore, cannot God resolve my problems? Will God not remove if I call upon him? Will he not answer me if he is so kind, if he is so powerful and so wise? These are three attributes to learn that Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam had. Therefore, he submitted completely to Allah. In the Quran, we'll end with this. وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهِ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. And whoever relies on Allah, he will have for him, make for him a way out. And that is the story of Prophet Ibrahim, that many times, because of his tawakkul, knowing that Allah is the ultimate source of power and mercy and wisdom, he relied on Allah, and Allah always gave him a way out. May inshallah we be true followers of Prophet Ibrahim, inshallah, this Shahr Ramadan. Ya Allah, we ask you because of the name of these prophets and imams, make us follow their path, inshallah. Forgive our sins, answer our du'as. Forgive the sins of our deceased and give shafa and help to all those who are sick and oppressed and remove their oppression, inshallah. Ya Allah, we ask you to make us of the ones who submit and follow and good companions of the Imam of the age and expedite his return. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.